Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 7 of Kwentuhang Beyond Kilig with Tita Joy Katigbak. Sharing true love, touching hearts one person at a time. I am Carla, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Guada
Hi, Carla. Hi, everyone. Good
and
evening.
Estelle,
Hi, everyone.
and we're part of Beyond Kilig. For those who just stumbled upon us tonight, we're a group of people who advocate the teachings of the Catholic Church on man's identity, purpose, love, and sexuality summed up in John Paul II's Theology of the Body. So we dream that each Filipino youth is empowered to love beyond kilig, to be able to give and receive true love. Episode 7, guys.
Yeah, bilis ng
Yay.
panahon.
I'm so excited for tonight.
Yes.
A lot.
Okay, so I'll put in Tita Joy. Hi, Tita Joy.
Hi, Tita Joy. Oh, wait.
I think you're on mute.
Unmute. Oh.
Hi, good evening to
There.
everyone.
Good evening.
Guada, Carla, and Estelle.
Nice to have you join us. So interesting yung topic natin tonight, no? I think we'll be learning a lot.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot in store. So, before anything else, no, we should have some sort of getting to know you through this short game, yung fast talk. So, it's a would you rather marry version. I hope you don't mind, Tita Joy. Game ka ba? Game ka na ba?
Game yan si Tita Joy all the time.
Okay.
I'm
Okay,
losing audio for some of you. Nakot.
Oh no!
I hope I can hear what you're going to say.
It's okay. We'll show the question naman.
Yeah, we'll show you the
We're
don't
prepared.
worry.
Let us know your preference for this fast talk game.
Yes.
Yes, what do I do?
Okay.
Okay. Go
Here,
ahead,
I'm gonna
Estelle.
start with the first question, Tita Joy. Extrovert or introvert?
Who would you rather marry, Tita Joy?
Yeah,
Who would I rather marry? Introvert.
Okay.
Because I
Okay.
married one.
Second. Ay!
Ito.
Cool. Okay, planned or spontaneous date, Tita Joy?
Planned.
Okay, speaker or listener, Tita Joy?
Is this the one I'm going to marry? Not me, ha?
Yeah.
Yeah, would you
Listener.
rather marry? Yes.
Feeling ko
Yeah,
nga kasi
listener.
introvert sa listener.
Speaker kasi ako eh. I need someone to listen to me.
Okay. Nice one. Would you rather marry early and succeed together or later when you're both financially super secure na?
Wait, marry early and succeed together or later? Later.
Okay.
Pero not
Would
naman
you,
super secure. Medyo secure lang, pwede na.
okay. Okay. Let's go with the next. Love at first sight or friends for a long time?
Friends for a long time.
Bigla ko na-curious sa love
Yun ba yung
story.
story niyo? Oo.
Oo nga.
Medyo.
We'll find out later. This is
Oh,
easy.
yeah. Tita, yes, please. Okay. Oo. Please let us make kwento.
Would you rather marry super smart or sakto lang but hardworking?
Sakto lang but
Pero
hardworking.
mahirap.
Pero smart goes a long way too.
Diba? Pwede na rin. Next, would you rather marry galante or kuripot?
Galante.
Wow.
Okay, would you rather marry by the books or a risk taker?
By the books. Takot eh, sigurista.
Okay, would you rather marry someone rich and influential or regular Joe?
Pwede bang rich and regular Joe?
Combine.
Why not?
Option
Low
C.
profile rich, ganon.
Sige, rich and influential na lang. And then I'll work on the other aspects that
On the
need
regular.
to be worked on.
Real talk, guys. Real talk. Okay. Next, would you rather marry someone clingy or independent?
Syempre independent.
Yan. Okay.
Yay! Thanks for
Okay.
that, Tita Joy.
Yeah, so that at least you have a glimpse of yung type ni Tita Joy. Maybe Tita Joy, let us know if it's like how close it is to your husband or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, baka may makarelate kay Tita Joy, di ba?
Oo, sa mga ating audience. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I
So
hope you're
later as
here, yeah, I hope they can, let us know their presence by commenting that you're here.
yeah, please comment your type among those that we've posted. Kung meron ba kayong type dyan. Oo. Anyway,
Oo.
later, as we go ahead with the questions and all that, please feel free to also comment and ask as well. Okay, so before we get into the interesting kwentuhan, I'll introduce first Tita Joy. So, um, Ms. Joy Katigbak gives talks and conducts workshops on the theology of the body for teachers, students, parents, couples, and young adults. She also speaks on parenting, relationships, marriage, and chastity. So she has taken several courses on theology of the body under internationally renowned speaker Christopher West at the TUB Institute in Pennsylvania, Katrina Zeno from the St. John Paul II Center for TOB and Culture of the Diocese of Phoenix, Arizona, and under Father Joel Hasson of San Carlos Seminary in the Archdiocese of Manila. She has also spoken in several conferences, including regional conferences and talks for Catholic Educators Association of the Philippines, Families a Gift Program, the Diocese of Imus Catholic Education System, Couples for Christ and its family ministries in various schools and parishes. A former teacher, Joy graduated from De La Salle University with a Bachelor of Arts degree, major in psychology, and a Bachelor in Secondary Education. She also completed the academic units for a Master of Arts in Education, major in Guidance and Counseling at the same university. She's been also married for 28 years now. She and her husband are active leaders of Couples for Christ, and they are proud parents of 4 children, 2 adults and 2 teens. So there, we're so glad to have you with us this evening.
Thank you. So happy to be here also. Actually, 29 years na
Ay,
kaming
29.
married.
Oh,
Oo.
okay.
Yung info
Oh.
ata yung napadala ko sa
Congratulations. Okay. So, first to start off, I'm not sure if everyone here in our audience are familiar with theology of the body. So, maybe if you can first briefly explain what this is about, no? This one that you've been giving talks about left and right and been advocating for a good number of years now.
Yeah, the theology of the body is actually a series of talks that was given by Saint John Paul II during the early years of his pontificate. So every Wednesday, di ba, the Pope gives his Wednesday catechesis, and this was what he delivered one by one for 129 Wednesdays. And it talks a lot about who the human person is, okay, how our bodies, made male and female, reveal God. And but all of this has to do with love and sexuality and marriage and all of these things that concern us in our lives. So basically, in a nutshell, that's what TOB is. It shows how our bodies reveal God. It's the study of how God is revealed in and through our bodies.
Mm, very good
Nice, nice.
explanation. Actually, the one that really sticks to me is that the body reveals God. And I think that's
Yeah.
very shocking for a lot of people because, I mean, yeah, if I didn't know about theology of the body, I didn't really expect that coming. Uh-uh. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's true. We find it strange na the body is able to reveal God. Kasi di ba usually when we think of things about the body, they're on one side, and then all of those things about God and the spiritual things, they're all the way on the opposite side. But what the theology of the body does is it helps us to understand that these two things actually go together. The body and God are not really opposed to each other. After all, di ba, God became a human person and he also took on a body just like ours. So that really gave the human body an incredible dignity. Kasi imagine mo, God Himself took on a body just like ours.
Yeah, that's really a good fact and it's true. Yun.
How many
Okay.
years have you known about TOB, Tita Joy?
How many years? I first heard about it in 2009. Okay, we were able to attend a conference, and the speaker was Christopher West, who is one of the most popular and most prolific writers siguro on the theology of the body. And we were really captivated from that time. And since then, I don't think we ever stopped doing work related to the theology of the body. First, only within our Couples for Christ community, and then later on, having the courage to venture outside of CFC to other audiences, so that other people would also learn about this really beautiful teaching.
Mm-mm. So, Tita, what made you an advocate of it, no? Like, what's that one moment? Maybe it could be like a certain concept of TOB, or I don't know, a sort of conversion, or that instance that made you think, okay, this is something that I'd really want to talk about and advocate.
Ano ba, to be honest, it was really that first talk that we listened to. It was as if parang so many light bulbs were turned on, and we realized, wow, how come, why didn't anybody teach this to us before? Because I grew up naman in a Catholic environment. I went to Catholic school. So, you grow up knowing all of these rules that the church teaches you. And that's just what they were to us. They were rules. You want to be a good Catholic, you have to follow this. You shouldn't have sex before marriage. You shouldn't do these things. Okay. And then if you don't, then you're going to go to hell. Okay. So we knew all the rules, but we didn't know the reasons behind the rules. Okay. We knew all the things we weren't supposed to do, but we didn't know why we weren't supposed to do them. It's parang just because that's what the church teaches, so you better follow it. Okay? But that's not how the church wants us to live, right? The church does want us to understand why it teaches what it does. And when I heard the theology of the body, from that time on until we started trying to learn more about it, and then later on attending courses about it, that's when we understood all of the whys behind the whats, right? And it was just so beautiful that you knew that there were so many other people, Catholics like us, or maybe those who aren't even Catholic, who also knew about those rules, but also didn't know the reasons behind them. Okay, and knowing the reasons and knowing the meaning behind everything that we do makes everything more relevant, and makes everything more it makes more sense, and makes it more purposeful when you live your life, kasi naiintindihan mo kung bakit mo ginagawa yung ginagawa mo. So yeah, from that time on, we said, this cannot remain with us. We have to share it with other people. So we tried to find ways to make more and more people know about it. And it's been that way ever since. I mean, the Lord just maybe gives us different avenues, newer places to bring the theology of the body, or newer ways of bringing it to other people. But since that time, and today, come to think of it, ang tagal na din pala, no? Pero the Lord was just slowly leading us, and making us venture into uncharted waters. Pero sige lang, we just kept saying yes, and here we are today. I mean, of course, there's still so much more to be done, but I think more and more we become affirmed that there is really a need for people to hear the message. So, in any way that we can be vehicles of that, yeah, we will gladly make ourselves available.
I was,
That's very
sobra akong
inspiring.
nakarelate. I was
As in,
telling, diba? Kasi parang everything just falls into place. And I was telling my sister na we were talking one day, sabi ko, you know what, if people just realize na, like the church's teachings, it's not super puro bawal, 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 but it's more really like guidelines on how you can be happy. Because actually, if you just follow parang you will learn how to love and you will learn how to be loved. So parang at the end, what that really just results in happiness eh. 'Di ba? Kaya Tita Joy, in your marriage, how has theology of the body affected your marriage?
Well, if there's one thing that has really been affected, it's really our marriage. Kasi TOB talks a lot about marriage. It tells us that marriage is no less than the image or the icon of Christ's love for the church. Diba, Christ's love for the church is like the love of a bridegroom to the bride. And how does he express it? He expresses it by making a total gift of himself to us. And that's really what marriage is. It's about two people who make a total gift of themselves to each other, di ba? You give everything to your spouse. You give your past, your present, and your future. You give for the men, di ba? They give even their last names. You give your whole life to this person, and you express that also by making a gift of yourself through your body to your spouse when man and woman come into the marital embrace. So that what the church is telling us is that is meant to be a symbol to remind us that Christ's love for the church is also a spousal love. So knowing that and knowing how knowing the meaning of our relationship as husband and wife, that it's about that fruitful total self-giving love, and that it's meant to be a symbol of Christ's love for the church, all of a sudden you begin to see the different aspects of our marriage where that is happening. Yeah, I'm able to make a total gift of myself to my spouse in this way and that way, but also where it's not happening. Oh, I think I'm falling short when I'm like this with my spouse, or you know, when sometimes I tend to think only of myself and not the needs of my spouse or what will make my spouse happy. Iniisip ko lang kung ano yung gusto ko, ganyan. So then you begin to be more purposeful of how you live out your marital vows. And then you know what I really one thing that really struck me learning TOB is knowing that that statement that Christ says um, um, to his disciples, and which is to all of us, and which we hear all the time in mass, yung this is my body given up for you, that that's the same statement that husband and wife actually say to each other when they get married. And in every moment of your married life, when you do things with your spouse, when you serve your spouse, or when you bear children for your spouse, for your family, if you're the wife, diba? That's what your body is saying. This is my body given up for you. Parang all of a sudden, really, naging napaka-meaningful and napakalalim nung pagtingin namin sa marriage namin. That it's not just, we want to build a family, so come on, let's get married, let's raise children. I mean, yeah, that's a good thing. But when you see the deeper meaning of what you're doing, then it really becomes more life-giving, and parang mas lalong gumaganda yung pagsasama. Of course, it doesn't mean na nawala lahat ng problema namin. Siyempre hindi, pero nakikita mo kung ano rin yung role ng mga challenges na pinagdadaanan ng mag-asawa. Then you begin to see that, it also means being able to bear these crosses as a way of making a gift of myself to my spouse and to my children. So all of these things suddenly have meaning. And that's what happened to us in our marriage. And then of course, um, both of us being advocates of the theology of the body, and both of us wanting more people to learn more about TOB and make the message known, whether it's in actual talks that I do, for example, or whether it's in just conversations with people, or kaming mag-asawa, kasi marami kaming inaanak sa kasal eh. So, matagal kasi kami nag-serve sa singles ministry. So, yung mga singles dun sa Singles for Christ, nung 'pag nag-aasawa sila, minsan kinukuha nila kaming ninong lang.
Certified ninang and ninong kayo.
Medyo. So, 'di ba, when you have conversations with your inaanaks, whether it's before they get married, and then you have a date with them, or when they encounter difficulties in their marriage and then they approach us, nagagamit namin yung TOB. So, 'di ba, yung knowing we're on the same page and knowing that we're able to also use what we know to be able to serve other couples, especially young couples, then that also makes our marriage more meaningful and purposeful. Marami
Mhm.
pa, pero yun muna.
Sobrang fruitful, hindi lang to your own children, no, Tita Joy.
Oo nga
Parang
eh.
talagang, parang naging anak nyo na rin all of the
Ang
people that
dami.
that you're teaching.
I have a question related to that, no? So, yun, you mentioned that you usually give advice nga to mga young couples or those who are married and going through maybe some difficulties. What's that number one thing that you always stress on, or like what's that number one point that you think is very relevant that you usually advise them?
Wow. Just one?
Talagang
Ang
lumapit ako
dami.
kasi kailangan gusto. Sobrang interested sa marriage. Yung,
Oo nga.
Estelle, you have to listen also carefully.
I know,
You're
I
about
know.
to answer into that.
I'm actually thinking of getting Tita Joy and her husband as ninang-ninong na. Even before she's gonna answer.
It depends. Maybe yung kung before marriage, um, maybe it's more of what you're getting into. That it's a really beautiful decision to get married. Okay? A lot of young people now are afraid to get married, or they think marriage is that's just a piece of paper that you sign. And, you need to have a marriage contract. But then when you see what marriage really means, and how can you imagine that God wanted to make a sign that is visible and that can be encountered by people in the world, that will remind everyone about who He is, right? That God is a Trinity. He's a communion of persons where there is di ba ang sasabi ng catechism natin, God is an eternal exchange of love, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that in the Father and the Son are making this total gift of themselves to each other, and then their self-giving is fruitful in another person, the Holy Spirit, right? The Holy Spirit is the bond of love between them. He wants us to understand what that means, and so He created marriage. Okay, so that's the same thing we see in marriage, diba? The husband and wife, they make a total gift of themselves to each other, and then what happens after 9 months? Their love is already another person that you need to give a name to, diba? So if you just think about it, marriage is has such dignity that it's meant to be a symbol of God in the world. Okay, it's meant to be a picture that God is leaving in the world for us to be able to know Him and to be able to know who He is, what it means that He's a Trinity. Okay, so I think when people understand that and they see what the meaning of this relationship is, parang you feel so privileged naman na, can you imagine this relationship that we're going to have? Akala natin, ano lang, para lang dumami yung mga tao sa mundo. Or para lang, I have someone to grow old with. I mean, of course, that's really a good thing. It's one of the things that, you hope to experience in marriage, that you grow old with this person that you love. But even beyond that, when you see the special meaning that God put into that kind of relationship, hopefully when people who are going to get married or who are thinking of getting married or who are starting not to believe in marriage anymore, when they realize that, then siguro mas gugustuhin nilang mag-asawa at saka mas maintindihan nila kung ano ba yung kagandahan ng pagiging married person. So I think that's one thing, knowing the meaning of what their relationship is. And then the other thing maybe is knowing that that sex in marriage is not just an act that you do because you want to have children, or because you want to express your love to your spouse, or maybe for some single people, they think there's so many things we can't do when we're still single, but when we're married we can do whatever we want. I mean, no, wait lang. It's also not like that. Doesn't mean that just because you're married, you can do whatever you want in terms of, in terms of expressing your love in a sexual manner. When they see the meaning of that sexual embrace, that, if marriage is meant to be an image of Christ's love for the church, then that means the love that I express in my married life, especially when I am in the marital embrace with my spouse, it's also meant to express Christ's love for us, diba? It's if Christ's love is, free, total, faithful, and fruitful, so must my expression of love to my spouse be, including when the two become one flesh. Diba? So when you think about it that way, then you realize, there's certain things that really don't belong even in a married couple's sexual intimacy. It's not because they're married, they can do anything that pleases them. But then you see, no, I want this act to be something that really expresses not just any kind of, my daughter likes to say, not just a sax kind of love, yung ganyan lang, sakto lang. Pero no, that's not the kind of love God has prepared for us. He makes us able to express love like Christ's love. So then you begin to see what dignity talaga marriage has, and what dignity sex also has. I mean, it's ano, ang tingin kasi natin sa sex ngayon parang ano lang parang just an activity, or
Pleasure
you know
based, no? Very pleasure based.
yeah, or something biological lang, that's something
Mm-mm.
your bodies do. But
Mm.
then you see, no pala, may meaning pala yon. And it's not just some meaning. I mean, sobrang ganda ng meaning na nilagay ng Diyos dun sa act na yon.
Yeah. Okay, that
Yeah.
that, that was very loaded. That's all I could
Yeah.
say, but
Loaded, but
that's so
actually easy to
true.
understand.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, very easy to
Tita
understand.
Joy was able to put it in such a concise and clear way.
Yeah.
Grabe, goals talaga si Tita Joy.
Oh.
We can explain it also in that manner from our end. Okay, I
Yeah.
think partner would like to ask naman, I know you have a question in mind, the reason why you joined TOB class,
Oh
diba?
yeah, because one of the reasons why I joined TOB is because I don't I'm the type of parent who doesn't believe na parang 'di ba before taboo pag-usapan yung sex, yung the birds and the bees ganyan. I actually, given the society that we live in today, I actually want to be the one to have that conversation with my kids. I don't want them to just pick up how sex is portrayed by media. Because oftentimes, yun na nga it's very like mababaw, it's very pleasure driven, and para I just don't like the values that are espoused when sex is talked about in mainstream media. So I want to be the one to have that conversation. So I just really want to ask you, how did you go into that, conversation, or like how did you discuss those things with your kids?
Yeah. Especially since it's very sensitive naman, 'di ba?
Yeah.
Nowadays.
I
Yeah,
think
nowadays.
as a TOB speaker, diba, it's like you have that kind of responsibility. Shucks, how am I going to say this in my own family?
Simple
Ganun.
way. Oo.
Or like how
Start with
did
the
you
family.
transition? Is it like, oh, upo kita ngayon, this is what happens? Was it like that? Or was it like
Or one-on-one.
super like subtle lang? Or like how did
Yeah.
you even start that conversation?
Tita Joyce moves. TOB moves.
TOB moves.
Oo.
Actually, okay, remember we encountered TOB in 2009. And in 2009, our youngest was already 5 years old. Okay, and our eldest was already 5 plus 11, 16 years old. I hope I'm doing my math right.
I'm also doing my
2009. Yeah, yeah,
math.
yeah. Yeah, because our youngest was born in 2004. So, it wasn't too late. Okay, it wasn't too late in the sense na meron na kaming teenager. Okay.
Mm.
And meron pa kaming starting to, syempre 5 years old, di ba? That's a good place to start, teaching a lot of things. But how did we do it? How we did it depended on each child. Okay, because every child is unique, right? And
That's
every
true.
child is has their own way of understanding things and relating with things. So it differed for every child. But I think one thing that I can really tell you is it goes beyond one conversation that
Yeah.
tells them about sex. Okay, when the church tells us about education in sexuality, it's the church is not telling us how to teach our children about how babies are made. Okay, that's just one aspect of the whole thing. Okay, because if that were the only aspect, then yeah, like what you were saying, diba? You sit down with your child and then you explain things. But that's not always the best practice kasi can you imagine being, let's say, even a 10 or 11-year-old, and then your mother or father suddenly explains these things to you out of the blue? Parang una-una magtataka ka, ano to, bakit bigla akong may sex talk? Pangalawa, parang baka hindi pa siya ready. Or maybe ready siya for some of those things, but not the full picture. Diba? So, sexuality education, I've learned, is really an ongoing conversation with your child, depending on their developmental level and what they are ready for at that particular time. And one thing I've learned is TOB gave us the language that we could use to explain things to our children, right? We could say, for example, I remember one time na this is a story I love to tell. Kasi sige, I won't say na lang which of our kids. Okay. Anyway, two boys, two girls kami. So even if I say you wouldn't know which one. But so one of our daughters, when she was about 12 years old, okay, I noticed a lot of her classmates, yung nagkakaroon na ng MU, ganyan. So, I wanted to make sure I wanted to know what was her understanding of those things. What did she think of those things, diba? So, I sat down with her one time, nilibre ko siya sa fast food. Tapos, nakipagkwentuhan ako. Then I started asking her things like, what do you think about your friends that have friends who are boys or are starting to have boyfriends or MU, mga ganyang tanong. Then my daughter tells me, Mom, stop. Okay? I know what you're going to ask me and I don't want to talk about it. Then she said, ask me when I'm
Oh.
13. So sabi ko,
My
okay.
age.
So, syempre, I'll respect
Wow.
it, di ba? So, I can't say, with our other kids that at that age, they were not ready. Some of them were already ready to talk about things like that or even a little more advanced than that. But she wasn't ready, and so I didn't push it. Okay, then when the day before or the day that she turned 13, she said, Mom, I know I said when I'm 13, but not yet. Okay, I did not bring it up yet, but not yet. I
They
don't
kept
think I'm
track of
ready.
it.
But when she was ready, well, the readiness came because there was an opportunity. Okay, we were watching a movie, and then some of the kids wanted to watch this animated film, and our older son wanted to watch this movie called Crazy Stupid Love. Okay, so I don't know if you've watched that, but my other daughter, wanting to be with the kuya, said, I also want to watch that. So, sumama ako do'n. Naghati kami nung asawa ko. Sumama ako do'n kasi siyempre nandun yung daughter ko. Eh, hindi ako sigurado kung ano yung movie na yan. I'd never heard about it. Na mabuti na lang kasi medyo maraming scenes do'n that, she kept covering her eyes kasi medyo nasya-shock siya. But then the opportunity came kasi when we were home and then, when we had settled down, then I was able to converse with her. What did you think about that movie? Okay. And she said, that's so weird. What were they doing? Why were they doing those things, diba? So then that opened the door to conversations about if you notice, God created the man's body and the woman's body differently, but they're created differently so that they can be together. And when they're together, they can express their love and have children. Diba? The children become the symbols of their love for each other. So, dahil meron kang alam sa TOB, parang nagkakaroon ka ng way of expressing concepts like that to your children. Of course, that's not how John Paul II expressed it. Pero di ba kung ita-translate mo yon sa para sa bata na ganong edad or maybe even younger, meron kaming nagamit na na way of thinking about it and way of um, understanding what the concept means. So yan, malaking tulong sa amin sa pagpapalaki ng anak namin. Then of course, as they get older, especially because TOB is like just a normal conversation for our family. Pag pag may nabanggit na na or kunyari situation na maganda, sasabihin nila, "Uy, TOB yan, no? Uy, this movie is so TOB, because there's this scene na ganito."
Wow.
Okay, so I mean, of
Part
course,
of your
not
dictionary.
yeah, pero
It's
it's
part of your
My
dictionary.
criteria.
because everybody knows what it is. All of our children have, of course, in different degrees. No, they all understand what TOB is. So when we start to talk to them about what it means to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, what do you look for in a boyfriend or a girlfriend, then more or less we're on the same page. And again, we're able to use the things that we learned in TOB to help form them. But yun nga, it's an ongoing conversation in every stage that your child is in. And it doesn't always have to be about sex, because TOB is about how God is revealed in our bodies, and our bodies are not only for having sex. Diba? In the ways that we make a gift of self to others using our bodies in even in simple ways, then that's still teaching theology of the body to the kids. So really goes beyond what we traditionally think of as sex education or talking about the birds and the bees with our kids. It's really a lifetime process. Of course, as they get older, iba na yung tema ng mga conversations nyo. Like we already have a son who's married. So of course, our conversations are now about married life. Ibang level naman ngayon.
Yeah.
I love how it was highlighted na it's an ongoing conversation. And parang I especially like na parang naha-highlight na you really have to be sensitive to teachable moments, no?
Yeah, you can't, like what you said, no, depende rin sa timing and finding out, like for example, that movie, that was also an avenue for it. Oo. And I
Yeah.
think
To each
for
his
others naman, it
own.
works out when you go on dates, and then the I don't know, son or daughter is able to bring up a situation or what. Because I don't think,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
you can't really
opportunity talaga.
you can't really you have to wait for them to be the one to start the conversation at times, no.
Actually,
But
what
most of them
what
ask. Okay, okay.
Ah,
Go
do,
ahead.
do they ask? Yeah, they ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, they ask. Because we already built that atmosphere where we told them that they can ask. Okay, and that
Mm.
if
Mm.
they want to ask, if they have questions, they can ask us, or they should ask us, right? I think that's one thing. Since a lot of parents are afraid to start the
Very
conversation,
much.
and I don't
Yeah.
blame parents at
Or
all.
even a kid to ask it, parang I don't think you'd want to ask that to your parents.
Yes,
Ah.
kasi naman we weren't taught by our parents what it is, okay, or how to do it. So, we when we became parents, hindi rin natin alam paano i-approach. But I think communication is so important for formation in sexuality and chastity. When your kids know that they can approach you, then I think half of the battle is won. But then of course, the other half
Yeah.
is kailangan alam mo yung mga sagot na kung paano mo sasagutin. Saka
That's
actually, I
true.
tell
That's
parents,
true.
don't wait for your children to ask, because most probably they're not gonna ask.
Yeah.
Most probably
Mm.
they'll ask
But yeah, it's
their
important lang to
friend.
create that atmosphere, no?
Yeah,
Like to
I think that
introduce na, yeah.
that is so important. Kasi
And
ngayon,
find the
ang default
timing.
ng mga bata, anong gagawin nila? Siyempre,
Social
mag-google na lang sila.
media, oo.
Okay.
Mm.
Or
And
through
of
their
course,
friends.
we don't want them to. Can you imagine your child searching something about sex? You don't want them to see what they're going to see. So we really need to make it clear to our children na if you have questions, ask us. And then whatever we talk about, don't tell your friends about it. Let them ask their parents. Kasi
Mm,
syempre
so
they can say,
true.
oh, I know things about sex. I mean, you don't want them to do that. Kasi dapat yung magulang nila yung magturo dun sa mga kaibigan nila.
Oh, nga. Yeah, I was just really curious. Like, how old was your youngest, or I don't know, how old was what your children among all the four who asked at let's say 7 years old, yung mga ganon, or was it mostly teenager na talaga? Like, or when you like, I wanted to know the range, the age range.
You mean questions about sex talaga?
Oo, oo.
Iba-iba, eh, kasi parang parati naman silang may questions. Like
Mm,
what I remember, for example, one of our kids was in grade 5. Kasi in grade 5, that's when they start to learn reproductive system, eh.
11.
So,
Mm,
siyempre 'pag pinag-aralan nila yung reproductive system, tatanong sila, "Paano nangyari yun? Paano yung sperm cell nakapunta sa egg cell?" So, medyo papawisan ka
yeah.
nun, papaano mo sasagutin yun?
Yeah.
Pero kailangan mo sagutin yun, eh, 'di ba? Pero other questions like one of our kids was already in high school and they talk about this topic in sexual morality and there's something there she didn't understand. And so she asks, what does this term mean? Okay. And then so again,
Oh.
papaisip ka, oh, nga, no? Parang paano ko ba naintindihan yun? Binasa ko lang ata sa libro yun eh kasi curious din ako nun eh. So but I think the important thing is that they ask. I think we should be thankful when they ask kasi tayo yung tinanong.
Yes.
Yung parents yung
Yeah.
tinanong.
The first teachers talaga yung parents. So, hands down to the parents
Yeah.
and teachers, actually.
Ang laki ng
But,
responsibility, no?
yeah.
Oo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but like, think,
exactly. Tama yung sinabi mo,
mm,
Estelle. First parents talaga. First teachers ang parents. And that's also what the church tells us, that we are the primary educators of our children,
yeah,
even when it comes to, sexuality education.
And about
yeah,
love, no, all the more. Because, diba, if marriage is that expression of who God is, what love is, so you're supposed to be like that instrument to live it out. So, and also be the source of information about it and example, to lead rin the example. So, parang, for me, napapisip, parang, ang laki. Tall order talaga to live it out, no? yung, yung vocation to marriage, it's parang a different level. Yung call to love,
yeah,
it's there's a lot of responsibility to it, no? So yeah, buto na lang we're learning POV. So there, but in this case, through Beyond Kilig, no, it's not just us from the team who's learning theology of the body. Our goal naman talaga, no, is through our shows, through our activities, and various platforms. We really want to make as many persons know about it as possible. Na it's not something hard to learn, but we can actually grasp these concepts in a simple manner, just like how Tita Joy explained it. Oo. So yun, we will bring in as many
yeah,
persons with us in learning this.
yeah. And Tita Joy,
Mm.
since you mentioned that your son is married, like, so, like, as a parent, what is your advice to your kids in choosing a spouse? And or as a parent, what is your criteria or like number one concern for your child when it comes to them choosing a spouse?
We can't choose kasi the spouse of our kids, 'di ba? But we can equip them to make good choices when, when choosing the person that they're going to marry. So, I think one of the things we teach our children is when you're choosing your boyfriend or girlfriend or when you're in that dating relationship, think of that person as is this the person that I want that I can marry someday? I mean, don't just think na, is this person, or do I have feelings for this person? That's not a good gauge. Eh. Or um, does this person like me and then I like them back? Or will this person be a good boyfriend or girlfriend? Dapat ang tanong mo is, will this person be a good lifetime partner and a good future mother or father to my future children? I think that's one of the things that we help them to understand. Um, and it didn't have to be na you sat down with them and told them na, oh, pag mag-aasawa ka or pag magbo-boyfriend ka, ganito ha.
Checklist.
I think they kind of picked it up in the conversations, and maybe sometimes when they heard us give talks, okay, or our kids kasi are also part of the young ministries in Couples for Christ. So they're in Youth for Christ and Singles for Christ. So they know that these teachings are, something that their friends they are also learning. So I think it was mostly that having non-negotiables, okay, when you're choosing your boyfriend or girlfriend, and when you're formulating those non-negotiables, you don't just have the present or the near future in mind. You're thinking of your far future, your lifetime partner mo to. Hindi ka pwedeng magkamali dito. Kung employer ka, tapos may nag-a-apply sa'yo na nagja-job interview, di ba sobra kang mapili? Pero minsan 'pag ang iniisip mo yung mapapangasawa mo, hindi ka naman gano'n ka-choosy. Kailangan mas choosy ka do'n kasi yung choice mo na yun is gonna affect the rest of your life. I mean, that person that you marry. So, and I think having said that, I think it's also really affirming when we hear our kids, like share about, oh, this is how I talk to my friends about having a relationship. I remember one of our kids, medyo nagulat ako kasi kinakwento niya na I have this friend and he's only this age and he's saying na he wants to have a girlfriend. I think he was only about 14 years old. Okay, so tas sinasabi niya kung ano yung mga sinabi niya dun sa friend niya na, "Do you even know what having a girlfriend means? Okay, just because you like a girl doesn't mean that she should be your girlfriend. Why do you want her to be your girlfriend? Because she's really pretty and she has a good sense of humor." So, dini-discourage niya talaga yung friend niya. Parang
Cute.
siyempre mga hindi naman namin nakita nangyari yun, kinuwento lang niya, 'di ba? So, 'pag maririnig mo yung mga gano'ng kuwento, mapapaisip ka na, alam niya, nakuha niya, naintindihan niya kung ano dapat ang isang relationship. So, medyo makakahinga ka ng konti do'n. But of course, hindi ibig sabihin, matitigil na yung formation. Siyempre, tuloy pa rin, usap lang talaga ng usap.
A lot of it is really subconsciously picked up from seeing that you and your husband live TOB out. Parang nagkakaroon na sila ng what we call here in Beyond Kilig yung TOB lens. When they see things and when they experience things, hindi nila nanonotice din na nire-repeat na pala nila from seeing the two of you live it out. Nice.
And I think also like the usual conversations, no, like for example, from experiences of friends or friends of the kids, or even kayo, yung mga friends niyo, mga opinions on certain matters, or what comes out in the news or in the media. I think those are all mga examples rin up for discussion. Oo. Okay. Next naman, for us, aspiring speakers and TOB advocates, I mean, me, Carla, Estelle, like we really have a lot to learn pa. So how can we be effective when it comes to talking about love, sexuality, or TOB as a whole? Because it's not just limited to this, no, it's also limited to identity, about teachings of the church, about who we are as persons. It's actually malaking sakop niya, but yun.
Siguro the first thing is to never stop learning. We really have to study Parang the more, or as much as you can, really try, whether it's taking a course, reading books, watching videos of speakers. I think it really helps because you see the many different ways that the topic is unpacked by different speakers. And then eventually, you also are able to develop your own way of unpacking the content. Okay. I think that that's one thing. And then maybe another is that we're able to focus not so much on the rules, but to focus on the beauty of love and God's design for man and woman, God's design for the body, God's design for sex, rather than the rules. Okay? Kasi especially when we speak to young people, they don't want to hear the rules. That's the one thing that really turns them off, diba? But when they see the beauty of what God designed, and then they see the rules in light of that design, then the rules make sense. Then you realize na if I want, this really precious thing, there's certain things I have to do, and there's certain things that I should not do for me to have this precious thing, right? And if I really want this because I really see the value of it, then I'm willing to not do those things. Kasi ang ganda nung kapalit eh. Minsan kasi hindi nila nakikita kung ano yung kapalit nung pagsunod nila dun sa rules. Ano ba yung kapalit nung hindi ako nang hindi ako mag-engage in casual sexual relationships? At ano yung nagiging kapalit when I do engage in those relationships? Okay, so when you highlight the beauty of what God has prepared, then I think especially young people, will be more willing to put their stake on it. Na, sige, tataya ako dyan kasi gusto ko yan eh. Okay, maganda yan. And then later on, I think we have to help them realize that what the church teaches is actually what we really desire, right? The church is not just imposing something on us, but it's proposing something to us that really springs from the desires of our hearts. That you realize, oo nga no, ganyan naman talaga yung gusto kong love eh. I want a love that is ready to sacrifice for me. I want a love that is free and total, faithful and fruitful. I mean, who doesn't want that? But hindi mo yan napupulot lang sa kalye ng basta-basta. Okay? Pagtatrabahuhan mo yan, kaya kailangan natin ng self-discipline saka self-mastery kasi yung mga magandang bagay, mahirap talagang makuha. Kasi kung napakadali, walang kwenta yun. Pero pag maipakita mo na may kwenta kasi to eh. Yung gustong ibigay sa'yo ng Diyos, may kwenta to, maganda to, ito yung gusto mo. Isipin mo, pag in-explain mo, tapos ma-realize na oo nga yan yung gusto ko. Then willing akong paghirapan yan. And then maybe another is, we need to always affirm the good. Okay? Sometimes, we're all imperfect. So even, let's say, young people who do certain things that we know are wrong, but then we affirm the good. Okay, what's good about what they're doing? Okay, let's say, jumping from one relationship to another. Okay, obviously that's not a good thing, but what's the good that we can see there? There's something good that this person desires. Okay, maybe this person desires affirmation or love, affection. Those are good things, diba? So when we're able to highlight the desire for love, the desire for affection, these are good things, and God wants you to have them. Okay, but what's a good way to have them is jumping from one relationship to another, helping you to find what you're looking for, or maybe it's not. Okay, then that gives you an opportunity to show them the better way by which they can have what they're looking for. Yun. Just some things that come to mind.
That is so beautiful. I was actually
Sobrang
taking down
ganda.
notes about yung sa may kwento yung gustong ibigay ng Diyos, willing kang paghirapan yan. Oo. Yeah.
Sobra.
Very true.
Parang gusto
And
na
the
pumunta sa
desires.
puso ko. It's so beautiful.
Oh, I was like smiling because I was like, yes, amen, amen to that. So, yeah, I think God. I mean, the way He made us is with our desires for love, for affection, for communion with different communion with a spouse, with friends, family, and these things, it's with us, but it's not again easily obtained because syempre we're imperfect, no? So he gave us those certain rules and ways on how we can love one another. So yeah, it's I don't know what to say anymore because you said it really well,
Parang
Tita
feeling
Joy.
ko, this is something, like what she just said, is something that will be in my mind hanggang bukas. Parang, yun yung, yun yung theme ng
For team
prayer ko.
replay din. Team replay din, di ba?
No, as in, parang,
Yeah.
it's so beautiful. Totoo.
Now what the church teaches us is really aligned with man's desires. So
I remember, sorry, I remember this comic strip that Father Joel showed us. Okay, so it showed a guy that had a fence before him, and he was going to jump over the fence, and yung fence was labeled God's commands, and then the guy was saying, "I hate these rules." Okay, and then he had a friend there who was trying to stop him from jumping over the fence kasi nga he hated those rules, so he wanted to get rid of them. So and then his friend was saying, no, it's not a fence. He says it's a guardrail. Okay, kasi the next scene was jumping over the fence meant falling into a cliff. Okay, so usually that's how we look at God's commands, diba? Or the church's laws. Na they're a fence that's preventing us from being happy or from doing whatever we want that we think is going to make us happy. When in fact, it's there precisely so you can be happy, so you can find true happiness. It's guarding you from, against those things that will take away your happiness or that will do harm to you. Okay, so when you think of it that way, then you see, these laws are really for my good. Yung sasabi si Dr. Edwards Rie, I guess some of you might be
Yes.
listening to him,
I
diba?
like his podcast.
Yeah, he says law equals love, right? So these laws that the church gives us, they're all because of love, and they're all meant to lead us to love. Just like a parent, diba? That's why you give your kids rules like don't leave the house without asking permission, or don't touch the hot stove. Okay, it's not because you don't want them to be free, okay, but these are the things that you have to set so that they will not hurt themselves. So ganun din. So that's one thing we can help others realize, that laws are meant for God to express His love for us.
Beautiful. Ganda, Tita Joy.
Diba? Pag na-feel mo ba na 58 minutes na yun? Parang hindi.
Oo nga.
Parang gusto ko pa siya
Kasi na-
mag-continue.
Yeah.
Ang dami ko pang gustong itanong. But anyways, oo. But yeah, actually, just to mention to our viewers, no, especially Team Replay. So we're glad that Tita Joy is with us. But in our next show naman, on December 4, we'll be having Nika, her daughter. So we'll be having her daughter this time, like the sequel, about to discuss more
Part
about
2.
her experience also with theology of the body, but this time, of course, from her perspective, as a daughter and at the same time as a young professional. So different perspective naman. So yun, my continuation. So yun, I think we can also ask Nika a lot of things as well due to medyo lack of time, no. But of course, I think there'll always be moments as well that we can learn from Tita Joy. I mean, I know you give talks left and right, so yeah, whether it's chancing upon another talk of yours or inviting you again in the future, right?
Yes,
Not naman left and right.
Excited na ako para sa next guesting ni Tita Joy.
Me too. Sure, Tita, don't forget. Ninang-ninong.
Pwede bang ikasal ulit para kunin ko ulit si Tita Joy?
So yun.
No, but
I guess I just wanted to say then like, yeah, I mean, I really like yung part na dapat mas choosy tayo, 'di ba? Like in in choosing our lifetime partner, as Tita Joy nga mentioned. And like, yeah, so it's okay guys to have high standards if that's what you're saying.
Oh,
'Di
speaking
ba?
of the theology of the body, parang, whoa!
Oo.
Shucks!
Don't settle for less, guys. Yun.
Yeah.
Yun. I guess
para
that's my
naman dun sa
takeaway
mga
talaga.
para naman dun sa mga guys, mag-theology of the body kayo para makamit ka ng quality girl. No, but ako ang favorite part ko yung yung yun na, kasi being a parent, no, my favorite takeaway siguro is the way we can really empower our kids is if we empower ourselves. So we have to continue learning. For parang if we want to be able to have those kinds of conversations, parang the knowledge won't just, automatically, arrive at us one day after like, thinking about it for a day. It won't. So yeah, empower yourself, read books, follow us.
Yeah.
Take
Yun.
our courses, get Tita Joy to give you a talk. So, mga ganun, parang you just really have to be more proactive and looking for avenues to learn so you can also be the one to teach your kids about it.
Okay, so please like our Facebook page, follow our IG handle, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. They're all beyond Kilig. Yun.
Yeah, if you search it up in Google, kami naman yung lalabas dyan eh.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Diba?
So yun, ako naman, well, one is yung purposeful. So what you mentioned is that with theology of the body, it gives a lot of meaning, no? Like especially with marriage and with a lot of things, with the responsibility, what's the why behind it. Because yun, a lot of people, I think what's nice about the youth today is that they always question that why. So there, I think theology of the body kind of provides that answer, and it provides the truth and principles of who man is, what's God's design for man. Because yeah, what you mentioned is if we show that beauty, then they will be attracted to it. And at the same time, it's like it's yeah, that form of protection so that we us as young people are guided rather than falling short from love's demands or falling short from what love really is. We can obtain happiness. Because right, I mean happiness is also really dependent on love, and God is love, right? So there, it's just sad if people don't get to grasp these truths, because then of course they'll fall short from happiness and love. And yeah, so there we really have that um responsibility to share to people about these teachings. Yes. Okay, so yeah, we've already spoken about a lot of things. Wait, we have here a comment that before we forget. Okay, so we have here from Maria. Well done. Okay, I'm not sure if like she's a fan or follower of Tita Joy or someone, but yeah,
She's
yeah,
from
Friend of
CDO.
I
mine.
agree.
She's from CDO.
Oh, okay.
Marla.
Marla pala.
Okay.
Parang
Marla.
Marla. Oo, Marla.
Hi,
Mm.
Marla.
Yeah, thank you for watching. Yan. Okay. From Lois naman mentions not a sax kind of love lang. Yeah. That's what young people saying, sax. Not for sakto lang, no, but for more than that. Okay. All right. I think we're good for tonight. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Sa susunod ulit, that's on December 4. And that time it will be with Nika. Okay. Hope to
Yay.
see
Have
you
a good
there. Thanks
weekend.
everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Good night.
Thank you.